welcome to our show. Today we have two special guests, Carrie Chapman Cat and Susan B. Anthony. So Carrie, you've been involved in many organizations. Tell me about some.
I was the first president of IWSA, International Women's Suffrage Alliances, and then I continued my work as a lecturer for the women's suffrage movement. Then I moved back to Iowa and joined the Iowa Women's Suffrage Group. Then I was a delegate for the NAWSA, the National American Women's Suffrage Association, where I later became president. Then I was a founder of the Women's Peace Party during World War I, and lastly, I was founder of the League of Women Voters.
Wow, you're really involved with the suffrage movement. What inspired you?
When I was 13 years old, I asked why my mother wasn't getting dressed up and going to town to vote like my father. Then my mother explained to me that voting was too important to let women be involved in. That was the day that I decided to fight for women's suffrage.
That's really inspiring. How did you know how to get Congress to make the 19th Amendment?
I studied law in Charles City at an attorney's office during my college years.
Did you meet anyone who inspired you during college?
Yes, during college I met my good friend Susan B. Anthony.
Well, here to join us today is your good friend Susan B. Anthony.
Hello.
Hello. So Susan, tell me how you influenced Carrie.
Carrie is one of my leads, and I selected Carrie to become head of National American Women's Suffrage.
Why did you believe that Carrie was right for that job?
She worked very hard throughout her life, and I believe that she had the most desire of all women to make change.
Susan, you also had many accomplishments in your life. How about you tell me about some?
Well, before I became involved with the women's suffrage, I had a big role in New York's anti-slavery and temperance movements. In 1849, I became Secretary of Daughters of Temperance, which gave me the ability to speak against alcohol abuse. And this served as the beginning of my movement towards getting involved with the public.
So, what inspired you to pursue women's rights?
In late 1850, I read an article in New York Tribune of the first National Women's Rights Convention in Worcester, Massachusetts. In the article, Horace Greeley wrote a summary of the final speech given by Lucy Stone. Stone's words inspired me to devote my life to women's rights.
Thanks to your inspiring support, Carrie has made a big difference for women. Carrie, how did you deal with the death of your two husbands?
It was very challenging to deal with the death of Leo, my first husband, but having that time to myself helped me be able to focus more on women's suffrage. When I remarried George Catt, who I had known since college, we had a much deeper relationship, and he let me dedicate myself to women's suffrage and always said, my job is to make a living and yours is to reform society.
I can only imagine what kind of challenge that was for you to deal with. However, women of the world really appreciate everything you both have done to create our rights. Well, that's all the time we have today. Thank you for being here with us. It's always a pleasure. Joining us next time is Elizabeth Caddy Stanton, so tune in next week.